Jim. Hello everybody, a warm welcome to the October meeting of Holbeach Parish Council. Just before we begin, if the fire alarm does sound, there is emergency exits through these double doors, and one over here, and if we can just meet at the far end over there where the assembly point is, so we can check that everyone's out safely in the event of the fire alarm going off. So we kick off with a slightly different procedure with an enhanced open public forum. This is for a period of 25 minutes maximum. So before we go any further, I'd like to invite members of the public to ask any questions and make any statements to council. Yes, please, sir.
Well, I've got a lot down in Buxton. One thing is a request for a start. The dyke, which runs the bottom side of the lane, it's overgrown with brambles and everything else. We're well infested with rabbits in there. My request is actually that it could be flowered out or something to get the, well, there's just the rabbits coming out and eating just about everything growing. Yes. So it'd be handy to have them sort there. I know everybody's got a big problem with rabbits down there, so that is my first one. My second one is that I received notice of the rent is due for this October. I did read the office and we didn't get on too well. I think, I don't know completely I was to blame for someone or not, but I got notice saying that the rent is due for now, and at the bottom of the letter it has, I can put it in quickly, sorry to look. Across the bottom it says, look, it's £25 to pay, this is quite well to pay. Please note this is for the last 6 months, April to October, and for the next 6 months from October to April, of the rent starting in October 22. Ever since I took on allotment down there, I paid me £25 in October up front. So, as I look at it, so if it's going back to April of last year, I'm paying double for 6 months.
I can see your point, yeah. Yes, please.
As I think I explained to you on the phone.
I can't quite hear you.
Oh, sorry, that's all right. As I explained to you on the telephone,
yeah.
The rents have always been, when the rental invoices went out in previous years, they were for the preceding 12 months, not in future, because you can't charge more than 6 months in the future for allotment rents, and you can't charge more than 6 months in past for allotment rents. So how you're supposed to do it is charge the last 6 months and the next 6 months. So when you get, so you still pay £25 a year, that doesn't change, nothing at all. In October 23, you'll get an invoice for 25 or 27.50 as it will be then.
Yeah.
The previous, well, it won't be 27.50 because we'll have to adjust it, but it'll be for the previous 6 months and the forward 6 months. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that, yeah. But it, when it comes like this way on, will we paid up front all the time?
No, I don't think so.
We have paid up front all the time, for every year. I think when it says, look, 6 months back paid.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's when it comes to me.
So I think what Jan's saying is that all the time it's been you pay 6 months in arrears and 6 months in advance because of the way the legislation is. So we can't charge, so in October we can't charge £25 for the following year, and we can't charge £25 for the previous year. What you have to do is, on October, you charge 6 months in arrears and 6 months in advance. So it's £25 for a year, but you're sort of charging in the middle of that year. Does that make sense?
I understand you
Yeah.
talking about there, yes, but my next point is, on that is, when the clerk is here to stay for several years, I assume, and the councillors, but if I keep that allotment on for, say, another 5-6 years, and it comes to an October when I decide to back it up, that should be 6 months, why the renting of this, I'll be 7 months in arrears. And which, duty bound, the council is to charge for.
Yeah.
Right, so I've got up the allotment rents here going back to 2016,
Yeah.
and the invoices were worded, the rents of the council's allotments for the year ended 11th of October 2016.
Yeah.
So they were all you never paid in advance, it's always been paid in arrears.
No, I've always paid in advance. I've always paid in the October. The very first year I took on the allotment, I paid £25. Actually, I took 2 allotments on. I took number 4 and number 16, and that cost me £50. I'm not in arrears. I don't work for arrears from October. I've always paid the first in October for the full year advance.
Yeah. It's,
That's the rules ones.
sorry.
Yeah, I'll just check.
Just have a look at some paper for you.
Yeah.
Where we can't sort your answer out now, we can take it away and analyse it a little bit more, just to allow everyone else time to have a question.
Oh yeah, so
And that's always charged.
yeah, so this is an allotment rent demand for Battlefields, October 2016. So this is a
I
letter.
can't tell you what year I took it on.
No, but this is a letter we have on our system. So
Yeah.
when we've looked back at how it's
Yeah,
previously
yeah,
done.
fair enough,
Yeah. So it's dated the 1st of October 2016, and the wording on the letter, it says the rents of the council's allotments for the year ending the 11th of October 2016. So
Yes, I believe actually I brought this up last year or the year before, because I've got people saying I was in X paid behind, the rent would have been paid, which I had, well, I don't know, the young lady, assistant clerk I think I spoke to that time, and she sorted it out and said, well yes, you are right, but I can't argue what you've got on your computer there, because perhaps your computer hasn't gone that far enough.
well, I mean, from the past few years, since 2016, it's been charged in arrears. So
Sorry, I would argue every time with that. It's been paid in advance every year.
Okay, so we'll have a look into that for you,
Yeah, sorry, yeah,
and
that's
then we'll give you an official response if that's all right,
Yeah.
just so we're not taking up
Yes.
everybody's time.
No, no.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah, but
Can I just clarify which dike you're actually talking about, so we can,
on the side of the lane.
which side you've got a lane on, on the actual access
The
road?
access road
The
into
access
the
road.
big square.
Right, okay, that's fine.
I was just going to see if we can clarify, do we have a date when the gentleman's allotment was started, when you first took it on?
No, not on the system.
Okay.
But it was definitely in 2016, because I just found the rent demand in 2016.
Yeah, we've got records for 2016, but if it was taken out previous to that, then it may be, like the gentleman saying, he may have paid upfront for that at that time, but our records only go back to 2016 that we've got
Oh
currently.
no, we can go back and further. But
Could I ask then that we look back into that and find out when he actually first started, and then we can...
I guess
Well,
absolutely. The
yeah.
thing is, the legislation states you can't charge more than 6 months in arrears and more than 6 months in
May I say one
advance.
more?
Yeah, of course. Sorry, back to
Because
the-
actually, when I took them on, I was trained by my brother to take it on. He was actual clerk at the time. So if you want to check back with him, it's I don't mind.
Yeah, definitely. We'll come back to you on those points.
Yeah,
and
so
thank you,
enough,
and thank you for the information about the dike. We'll,
Yeah, but that is terrible. Isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
alongside the road.
Okay, thank you for your questions. Thank you. Any more questions for council? Mr. Poll.
Good evening, councillors. I believe it was the autumn of 2014 when the Tigers Social Club decided to close and then reinvent itself. It seems now we've got a truck stop started up at the football club. selling burgers, bats and everything. I have, if the gentleman would just like to hold those photographs up. I'm just interested to know when the parish council, as landowners of the premises, get permission for this. And as now it's happening, will you be charging them a commercial rent for this?
So the Tigers and Social Club have opened a kitchen hatch and you feel that that's a truck stop because it's two
Well,
trucks.
there's two trucks there, but
It's hardly a truck stop to me, but
yeah.
the Tigers bar, do they have a licence for food and alcohol?
They definitely do for alcohol because they've been serving alcohol for a long time.
I think the general opinion was that it was for when they had matches, not for a 7:30 till 2 o'clock, 5 days a week.
Showing initiative. Anybody got any comments that you want to make about the Tigers? Yeah.
I mean, we can check into their licensing, etc. I don't believe it would have needed to change the use, but we can check just to make sure. But they have been selling alcohol for functions, etc. for quite some time.
I don't, respect Mr Chairman, I don't think this kiosk is actually selling alcohol.
No, it's selling
So
food and
that's a
stuff. Yeah.
separate site. But it's a separate venture
Mhm.
and it will be competing with the other
Yeah.
establishments we have in the town.
But it depends. When they first opened the Tigers Club, which before my time, when they started using it for receptions, etc., they didn't serve food at the time. But under planning law, it will depend whether they require a change of use to now sell food, which I know they relax the planning laws for use categories, etc. So
I know it's always had a kitchen myself because I've been there many times. Mark?
I know previously, and again, it certainly last year and the year before, they would have a catering van in there on match days. So they wouldn't actually sell food themselves, they would have the catering van in the actual. Whether they would rent the space at the catering van, I don't know, but that's how the catering was done previously, so I don't know whether this, again, is something that they brought in since they've done the renovations.
We can double check and look into that. Thank you for bringing it to our
It's
attention.
not a question of what they're doing on match days, it's a question of what they're doing not on match days.
Oh, we understand, yeah. What you're
And
saying.
whether through yourself, District Councillor, can advise if there's any difference in rates, as it be it's a full-time fixture now rather than just for match days.
Fair point, we can check that out for you.
And one more question, Mr Chairman.
Yeah.
Can you tell me where a notice has been fixed within the parish in a conspicuous place advertising tonight's meeting?
On the digital board.
yeah.
On the digital board?
Yes, but the digital board, you have to know that you can tap it to bring up parish council agenda. And that, I don't believe, amounts to being a conspicuous place.
Yes, please, John.
I think you brought this question up before on the 13th of June, if I'm not mistaken. And I believed that I was correct in posting it to the digital board. I checked with Lauk after that meeting, and 100%, doesn't matter if you have to tap it or not, it is a legal way of posting a meeting.
Well, after the meeting, I contacted Sir John Hayes. And Sir John Hayes has gone on to the local government minister, who has responded back that we are still using the 1972 Act.
Yeah.
And it is to be pinned in a conspicuous place within the parish. Which are conspicuous means easily seen. Now, nobody can easily see that because you've got to know to go there and tap the board. So I don't think you're complying with the law, the legislation.
I always go by what I've been advised by Lauk.
Yeah.
I can't go back to them again.
The transfer also from board to digital board was also passed by council. We agreed to move on to that.
Pass on to
You're the chair.
Rachel.
That's what the chair.
Like on the other notice board. to do away at the time.
Thank you, Paul.
Just print them off, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we can contact them directly and find out. Obviously, we've got advice from LAUP, which are the people who advise us on what we should be doing as per the legislation. If that's differing advice, then that's them disagreeing with each other, which is helpful. But yeah, we'll take that on board. Normally we do publish them on the notice boards within the parishes, but I don't believe the councillor has done it because I think he's been away that week, but it's definitely something we can look at.
We'll come back to on that point too.
Well, if I can come back to the deputy, I recall being in a council meeting many years ago and listening to advice from LAUP, and their advice at that time was wrong. They have got nothing to lose. It is not their heads on the block. They was advising that the parish council didn't need a deed of release when part of the Manchester the Queen's Crown estate went into a householder's garden, which was on the parish council's tenancy agreement. And they were totally wrong. I do not trust them as far as I can kick them. So I look forward to next month's meeting getting this finalised. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Still got time? Any more questions from members of the public, please? Okay, so those that have open questions, we'll come back to you as soon as we can and resolve your queries. Thank you.
Right, thank you for your time.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for joining us.
As if I'll get on.
Bless you. Thank you. Okay, so if there's no more questions, we'll move on with the meeting. And we now have a 10-minute window to receive reports from elected members of Lincolnshire County Council, South Highland District Council. Do we have any reports from those?
No.
Yes, of course.
Can I please ask that we go back to them and ask that we do receive a report if they're not attending? Because this is now 3 meetings that we haven't had any reports for district or county, and how we're meant to know what's going on.
Fair point. Can we do that? Thank you, Jen. Okay, so in the absence of those reports, we'll continue along. So I'll introduce each agenda item in turn and invite council members to speak. If you wish to debate on an item, please raise your hand to be invited to speak. When invited, please stand to address council. When voting on a proposal, please clearly raise your hand. So I will now instate our standing orders and commence with our first agenda item, which is 2022/3-077, and that's apologies for absence, please.
I have apologies from Councillor Safia Hussain, Councillor Rick Stephens, Councillor Peter Howden and Councillor Steve Lewis, all for acceptable reasons.
Thank you, Jan. So item 2022/3-078 is declarations of interest. This is to receive any declarations of interest in accordance with the requirements of the Localism Act 2011 and to consider any requests for dispensations in respect of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest in agenda items. From members, do we have any declarations of interest to make? Rachel?
The Finance Committee section and section F is a non-pecuniary interest. Okay.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, is there any other declarations of interest at this point? If we, however, reach an agenda item and you decide there is a declaration of interest to make, please do so. That's our item. So item 2022/3-079 is to resolve to approve as a correct record the notes of the meeting of the council held on the 26th September 2022 and to authorise the chair to sign the official minutes.
Proposed.
Thank you. Rachel, all those in favour? Okay, item 3. Right, I just need to sign these off, so won't be long.
I'm not sorry, no, that means.
It was a long meeting.
That's votes on it. Sign.
We'll have some music playing or something when I do this.
Always edited.
Thanks, Tim. I'll put that on you.
What would you do?
You are being recorded, if you will, Chair.
Sign that bit there. And then sign it at the top.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, so item 2022-3-080 is the clerk's report. And item A is to receive a report from the clerk.
Thank you. First of all, we've received the Civility and Respect project that we discussed at last meeting, the pledge. We've now got a certificate for that, so I will laminate it and then bring it along to meetings. Right, in answer to the question raised at the last meeting by the gentleman over there, we've been through the minutes and there is nothing, well sorry, there is now, because we've in the 1990s, staff were asked to repair the chapel windows, but that's all that we have in the minutes, we have nothing else. The artwork that currently covers the windows was organised by the Cemetery Chapels Trust in consultation with the then Conservation Officer. We've contacted the Conservation Officer regarding the back tiles. 6 are required, and as long as they are the same colour as the slates, he's happy. There's no problem at all. We were contacted on Friday morning by someone who is a student at UAH reporting that a baby pigeon had fallen out of a tree and was injured. I contacted Waddles Rescue and they attended. The UAH student waited until Waddles arrived to ensure the safety of the bird. I'd like to thank this student, and it just goes to show that Holbeach does have some truly great young people. Councillor Tracy Carter would like to remind councillors that if they have any queries or need assistance, etc., to please email the office and we will pass on these to her. That's the first bit, and it's vacancies. All the vacancies remain available for co-option.
Thank you, Jen. So 2022-3-081 is the Open Spaces Committee. Item A is to receive the report from the chair of the committee, which is Appendix 1 in your document.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Okay, so the way forward with the slide was discussed and recommended to full council. Maintenance of the Bowls Club was discussed and will be revisited after investigation of costs. Cutting back of trees bordering our sites will be scheduled. It was agreed about the location of 2 new rows for cremated interments in Park Road Cemetery. Purchase of a stake and banding machine and new composting area at Battlesfield Allotments is to be looked into. It was discussed to advertise the allotment vacant plots. It was agreed to purchase signage and a gate for Battlesfield was discussed as a next year's project. It was agreed that the vehicle gate at Netherfields is to be locked off for the winter following issues with it being forced open. 2 tender formats for grass cutting were recommended to full council. Following the in-depth tree report, it was discussed to put out the tree work to tender. It was recommended that a parishioner from Holbeach Herne contact the playing field committee re ongoing mole issues in the first instance and to advise about the grant scheme if needed. Quotes were discussed for the next financial year open spaces projects, and both the project funding and proposed budgets were discussed and recommended to the Finance Committee in preparation to go forward to full council. And the final thing, a way forward, the repair of the proposal was discussed and recommended to full council. And that's the end of the report.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, item B is to resolve to agree the holly cutting tender. Information on the Team Drive. Did everyone have a review of it? Because we only had the one. Yeah. So,
Yeah, so we've only received one price, and I think therefore we go back to them as soon as possible. It's
Yeah.
only a benefit to us because we're getting paid for cutting holly.
yeah. I think as we followed the process and had one in, we've got a proposal there. So do we have a proposal to accept that? Rachel, a seconder. Mark, all those in favour? If we can let them know they've been successful, please, John. And item C is to receive an update on the slide and to resolve to agree the way forward. Is this your item, Mark?
I can briefly, but
Yeah.
we have had communication back from them, they've taken on board what we've said, they've wanted to clarify a couple of issues, and they are still awaiting their department to look at another solution to come back to us. So until we get that, we can't move forward with them.
Okay, so that's really the update on there, and to resolve to agree the way forward. I presume we've just got to wait for them to come back, and
Yeah.
that'll be our way forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I suggest we defer it to the next meeting for a way forward?
It will go on to the
Yeah.
next
It will just go on to the next one, yeah. So that would be, exactly as Mark said, on to the next agenda. Do you need to propose a second for that, or just go for it?
No, because we'll have well, we can defer to next meeting. We resolve to agree then, yeah.
Yeah, so the result to agree, then we'll defer. So proposer? Sophie, second, Mark, all those in favour? Great. 2022/3-082 is planning, properties, emergency planning and the speeding committee, and A is to receive the report from the chair of the committee, which is appendix 2 in your agenda pack.
Unfortunately, we were unable to meet in September, but we did meet on the 5th of October. Work was due to start on the chapels beginning of October, but that has been delayed. We'll be covering that in another item. And we have had a meeting with the Conservation Officer to discuss plans for the future of the chapels. We are due to be meeting regarding the emergency plan this Thursday, and we will be making any amendments that are necessary to that to bring back to full council. The Bowls Club will be vacating at the end of October, and we will be working with them in the hope that we can come up with a suitable plan so that they can continue to use the space as a club, but also open it up to other groups and members of the public for use as well.
Thank you. Okay, so item B is resolved to agree the planning responses. So we have H09085122, which is a residential development for the erection and repair of semi-detached houses. H09091322, a residential development, and that's the erection of 6 houses. H09084522, erection of 100 dwellings with associated parking, roads and drainage. And application H09094822 is extension alterations. Now I do believe we had some comments come in on one of those
Yeah.
just before the meeting, so we want to cover those.
Yeah, but I think there was an issue because they're not in material considerations that we can
No, but it's still important to acknowledge the fact that we've
Yeah.
had these in and that we can't comment on them.
So for the erection of 100 dwellings, we have had correspondence from a parishioner who would like us to object to the planning application. Do you want to just read out a few of the
Yeah,
reasons?
yeah. Sorry, just bear with me. I'm trying to find it.
That's all right.
Okay. So, person says they object to the development as follows. 1. Access egress via Tudor Way for vehicles is not viable for the reasons from the Highways Department to a previous application. Tudor Way junction at Fen Road is not wide enough for safe exit and a number of vehicle movements. Number 2, it is not shown if the roads on this site will meet up with the rest of Holbeach Meadows, which we need to know because Tudor Way would become a rat run to Barrington Gate and onto the High Street to the forthcoming Aldi on Fleet Street. Number 3, car parking spaces are too close for safety to cycle pedestrian exit onto Fen Road. Also, the closeness of Fen Road, Station Street and Barrington Gate Junction will be very unsafe for cycles, pedestrians exiting, and a pedestrian crossing will be needed. Number 4, Fen Road will not have the capacity to cope with the volume of sewage from this site. Does the Parish Council know if this has been checked and what the results were? You will no doubt remember homes being flooded along Fen Road in recent years. 5, is the school actually going to be built on Holbeach Meadows as on original plans, because it will surely be needed? 6, this affordable village is on the wrong site within Holbeach Meadows. It is absolutely not in keeping with or complementary to the existing types of housing, individually designed and pleasingly built, as it should be in planning terms. 7, it is not sufficiently visible on the plans exactly how close the house buildings are going to be to existing properties or how wide the landscape buffer is going to be. Nor do we know if and how loud any piling will be and how much more heavy traffic our own foundations will have to withstand.
Okay, so just want to comment? Yeah.
So, in terms of that development, it is part of the South East Lincolnshire local plan. So it's already been allocated for housing on that site. I mean, some of her comments are understandable and very valid. I think from the plans it does look like it's connecting back up with Holbeach Meadows. It's part of that whole development. It is obviously linking into Tudor Way. The only thing I would suggest in order to reduce the strain on that junction of Tudor Way is then connecting into another roadway, which there is a link that you could make into Oxford Gardens. That's the only way to reduce the impact upon one junction, is to link in so cars have got more routes to go. In terms of the impact upon the infrastructure, etc., it's a comment we can make on planning, but I think given the significant amount of comments we've been having from Boston Road South, sinkhole meeting, etc., and on other things, it is a small development in comparison to the other ones. From my point of view, I think we really need to be going back to District Council, Lincolnshire County Council and Glyn Water and finding out what their actual plans are to develop the infrastructure in the area, which is a separate issue to that particular development. It's more of a general planning concern, because a lot of residents are concerned about the number of houses going up. Obviously, plans are put in place, 106 agreements are made, but I think the public need to know clearly what plans are going to be put in place, especially with sewerage, given the amount of burst water mains, etc. we've had and road closures.
Mark?
Yeah, I mean, it mirrors my comments that I was going to say in relation to taking on board what people's viewpoints were when we had the Boston Road meeting. Sir John Hayes himself said it's about time, as a district and and a parish, that we stand up to continued developments in the area, especially based on what the infrastructure is. And I think the other thing is, if they are going to do a development, so many companies now are getting to that point of putting 106 money in and then claiming to pull it back and reduce it. It's got to be, if they're going to put the 106 money in, then it's got to be used and it's got to be utilised. The other thing is being quite sort of like in relation to young people and first-time buyers. If these are going to be 100 developments that are going to be 4-bedroom, £350,000 houses, where's that going to go for the young people in the area that want to get on their property ladder? We've got nothing at the minute in that remit, so it needs to be that type of development if it's going to go ahead.
Okay, so we've had some interesting comments. It takes me back to when the Hallgate application first hit the ground running, and the worry and the scare that would have around, and it seems to happen every time. So I think it's important to acknowledge this member of the public's comments and their viewpoints, and they should be encouraged to add their comments to the application directly, because they have a voice, which they've also been able to air tonight. With regards to our situation, Sophie's made it quite clear that the infrastructure is a separate issue. The infrastructure, that's the ancient bit of Holbeach, if you like, needs updating, as well as all these new building sites. It's got up-to-date pipe work and things. They're leaving the things behind, and I agree with Mark about us pursuing and making sure that those bits are not left behind. Any other comments from the council?
I do have another comment on another planning application. The erection of the 6 houses down, is it Farrenham? Yeah, it's okay. I think it's personally a very poor site layout. There's a lot of houses crammed into the rear of the site, which is a smaller place, and then a large portion left at the front of the site. I just think either it needs rejigging or reducing the number of houses on that site.
Okay, so the item is to resolve to agree the planning responses. We've obviously discussed debated two. So we've got one, 3 of those that are fine and 2 with comments. I think that 100 house one, when we've got a comment to make to planning, is more the infrastructure, isn't it?
I would make a comment on the road network, because that is one thing that you can comment on. That has been raised by the parishioner, and I think that is valid. Maybe if they could look at, making sure that there's not too much pressure put on one junction.
Okay.
And then the infrastructure is, it can be commented on in that application as well. And I think it's something to comment on every housing application, but I do think it is an issue that needs to be addressed separately as well, because it is a much larger issue.
So the infrastructure as well. I do agree, it's all right having the new builds and having all the right pipe work, but they're connecting into an old system, and that old system, if it's not overhauled to withstand the extra pressure, it's going to cause all sorts of issues.
The 6 houses, what was the...
The 6 houses was to relook at the site plan.
And it's mainly the rear of the development.
Okay, so we've chatted about the applications on your agenda, and we've made some comments on a few. Are we happy with those? Anybody want to add any more comments before we approve them? So do we have a proposer and a seconder for those comments to go forward, please? Rachel and Isabel, all those in favour? Thank you. Okay, item C is to resolve to agree for all councils to sign the documentation from Moss and Bowser to register properties. And this is an item that was previously agreed on, so it's just a document for all council members to sign. Are you passing it around now, or?
Yeah, that's all right. So
Yeah.
No.
No?
We'll do it again. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just basically terms of reference and
their engagement.
their engagement, basically.
Okay, so it's to resolve to agree, so do we have a proposer and a seconder? Yeah, fire away, Rachel.
So we've never had to sign anything like this before, so I wondered why we're signing it now.
We should have a meeting, when we agreed to sign it.
Yeah, I just need to know a little bit of the background of why we are signing it. I have read it.
So, yes, I'll come to that in a second. When you're engaging, with activity, they have to have their signed terms of reference as a legal requirement, like I would have to have a contract
As a
signed.
council, I've never had to sign one before though.
So,
We've never done this before, I
No.
think. We've
No,
never
just wondering
done this item before.
so this is for the land registry that we've started doing, and Mossops are registering our properties for us, and it is something we've only just started doing, so that's why it's only just come about. So in order to proceed, we need to all sign a document to engage in services,
There's only
which
four
has
of
been
us
previously
here.
agreed.
You have to wait for all councillors to come in? Six. Or how many signatures?
Once we've approved for everyone to sign it, then they will need to go
So
later.
every single councillor
Yeah.
can sign it?
Yeah.
So I just want to know.
Tim, you can't.
Yeah, sure. Do the, all of these documentation, are all these properties subject to having a set of deeds or something? They're not registered properties.
The land registry is a separate, so that every property has a deed, and then when it goes officially to land registry, that's the bit we're doing.
Yeah,
That
so
became
these
compulsory.
properties have never been registered before?
No,
Oh, right, I see.
so the purpose of registering is obviously the ownership, isn't that?
Yeah, but I've already just, basically, a lot of them are the properties that the council owned for many, many years, hundreds of years, some of them, and they've never actually had the registration done on them, and it was something that we talked about 2 or 3 years ago, and it never got action, so now it is being action to make sure that we are registered properly. And from the point of view of signing, Rachel, on another body that myself and some of the other councillors sit on, we've had to sign, everybody on that body has had to sign to authorise Mossops or any other company to do it. They need every signature from people that are part of either a governing body or the council. They won't just accept the clerk's signature.
Since we're engaged in discussion to do this on our behalf, have we put this out to competitive tender, see which other law companies will be ready to do that?
Yes.
We've been here before, we've had this
Yeah, we did.
conversation before, we did, yeah.
Great. I don't know if we put
I
out
think
a
it was
meeting.
before you joined, actually, Tim, to be fair.
Okay, sorry. Great.
That's one, good question. When a property exchange hands now, it's automatically registered, and because we've held them for all that years, there's been no need. So.
Well, I've done it myself with the land registry. You don't need a volume solicitor, basically.
Well,
I've just come back on that. Yes, we could do it ourselves, absolutely we could, but there are a couple that are a bit more complicated, should we say.
Okay.
So we thought it best to use professional advice.
let them deal with it. Okay, so the item is to resolve to agree for councillors to sign the documentation. Do we have a proposer and a seconder for the item? Isabel, Sophie, all those in favour? That's all council to sign the documents. We'll do that at the end before you leave, please. D is to receive an update regarding the cemetery chapels and to resolve to agree the next steps, please.
I'm
Is
going
that
to pass
you?
this one over to Sophie because
Okay.
she'd have the meeting with the conservation officer.
Okay, thank you, Sophie.
Okay, so regarding the cemetery chapels, we decided to query the felt, the overheads and profits and labour, and the scaffolding. They came back with a felt. It is the same quantity of metres squared, it's just one roll is larger than the other rolls, so it's the same quantity. Their overheads and profit, they say they add to all of the materials, and they're just being transferred by putting it out there. Labour for the batt tiles, they said that it physically takes longer to put them on. And then regarding the scaffolding, they're saying they're not going to start work until we agree to pay for the scaffolding. They were meant to start back on the 3rd of October. Reading through the terms and conditions, they have put quite a lot of things in the terms and conditions that's going to make it very difficult to argue the case. you know, they have held the price since it was very first tendered, so in actual fact they're probably losing money anyway. It's weighing up whether it's worth fighting it anymore, or are you just going to pay it in order to get them back at work on the site.
Isabel?
You know I don't like spending money, but it's going to cost us more to fight it than it is to actually just pay them and get them back on site. Winter is fast approaching, we need the work doing. We've been waiting long enough now, and if we were to lose them as a contractor, you're then going to have to find a whole new contractor, which means you're going to be paying more anyhow, because the prices are going to have gone up. So, as much as I would love to fight our corner, I do think in this circumstance we just need to agree to get it paid, get them back on site and get the work done.
Okay, well my point of view would be to share that. The fact that we have challenged it shows that we did consider the options with regards to the Perth Strip. If we continue to delay it, we're not only going to waste money, we're also going to have chapels that are going to fall even further into disrepair, which we don't want. I would propose the way forward would be that we suck it up and get on with it. Any other comments?
Will we need to check with finance to make sure the money's there?
Did you chair last night?
Yeah, I chaired the last finance meeting. We have got the money in the budget for the cemetery chapels renovations. Obviously this is going to be additional money, but it's either spend the additional money and find it, which we should be able to manage to do, or you're not going to get the renovations complete at all, which means you've got a roof that needs work and you've got the winter coming with water coming in. So
Yeah, I fully
Yeah.
take that on board completely. Just question where this money's going to come from. It's got to come out of some of the budget. Where's it going to come from? I'd hate to see a situation where the skate park was being ignored, or or the slide was not being done. The kids are marrying this as well in this council, so I'd like to know where the money's coming from and if we can actually make it. That's all.
Isabel?
Without looking at my budget in properties, I can't tell you exactly what is left, but if there is sufficient left, then it would come from there. If not, it would have to come from the contingency that we've put into the budget anyhow, overall for our whole year. So it would go into that.
Okay, thanks, Yvonne.
Okay, thank you for the update. So, Mark?
Just wondered if we could just confirm, obviously it was spoken about previously, but if we could confirm that the additional spend, what it would be before we vote on it.
My assistant will get that for you.
has it got the original
It's
cost?
not in that email I've just got.
It's not.
No,
It's in last month's documentation. I think it was around,
Approximately 1,300 for the scaffolding.
I think it just comes
About
around the
700.
2,000
Yeah.
mark.
700 for the materials, etc., and about 1,300 for the scaffolding.
Yeah, I just wanted for
Yeah.
clarity, just to justify what we're spending.
Give or take a few quid.
Thank you.
And to resolve to do the next step, to get on and get it done, I propose.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All those in favour? Okay, passed. Thank you. Nice, great debate on that one. Okay, 2022/3-083 is the PR and IT committee, and is item 8 to receive the report from the chair of the committee. There is no report to receive. And 2022/3-084, the events committee, A is to receive the report from the chair of the committee, which is appendix 3 in your agenda pack. Thank you.
Most of the letters have gone out to organisations inviting them to the Remembrance Parade on the 11th of November. We've had another meeting with the RBR and the church, and things are progressing well. Final details will be discussed at our next meeting. The Xmas Fair is coming together, and there's been lots of interest in stall holders. Posters, like I said, will be going out. They have gone out now, and letters to all of the businesses informing them of what we have planned. We're also sending letters to the schools explaining how the children can get involved in the event, and we will be doing a press release in the coming weeks. More information will be posted on Facebook promoting this as to what's happening on the day as things progress. At our last meeting we discussed the possibility of a farmers market, and we all felt that this would be something the public would be interested in, and we'll be looking at the possibility of progressing this idea in the coming months. And finally, can I please ask that any councillors that are available on the 13th of November or the 3rd of December, please let the park know their availability, as we will be requiring stewards for both of these events. And if there are any members of the public that are interested in helping in that way, if they'd like to get in contact with the park also.
Thank you, tonight.
Sorry, Jack.
No.
Just going to say, in relation to the Holbeach Farmers Market, I am aware that there is a farmers market that's already planned, so just wanted to be, quite clear that we're not stepping on other people's toes, but doing it in comparison with,
Okay, thank you for the point. Okay, so item B is to resolve to agree that the marshals for remembrance and the Christmas fair will be volunteers of the council. Usual procedure when we've got them on board, we take them on as volunteers. That's for the volunteer policy.
Yeah.
Do we have a proposer and a seconder for the item, please? Sophie? Isabel? All those in favour? Thank you. Okay, C is to resolve to agree the recommendation of the committee to spend the spend of £2,500 on the Christmas fair. Is that the remainder of the budget?
I'll just explain. We budgeted for £5,000 for the whole of the year for events, and that was to cover absolutely everything. We looked at the budget. We have still got £2,500 left, which, quite frankly, I think is pretty good, because we've got on several events over the year. So our proposal is that we would use as much of that remaining on the Christmas event. Should there be any that we didn't spend, we would be looking at purchasing key items that we'll use for all events. So things like pop-up gazebos, etc., so that then doesn't have to go into the budgeting for next year. So currently, I think we're looking at potentially spend of around about potentially 1,500 at the moment on Christmas fair, so there's still a bit left over. That may change slightly, but we wouldn't be just wasting it. It would either be purchasing key items or it would go into reserves for next year.
Okay, good explanation, thank you. Straightforward. Anybody got any comments? Or can we go straight to a vote? Proposer? Seconder, Tim, all those in favour? Agreed. Good luck for the Christmas fair. Okay, item 2022-3-085 is the Finance Committee, and to receive the report from the Chair of the Committee, which is Appendix 4 in your agenda pack, and I believe Sophie's going to do it.
So, in Rick's absence, I chaired the last Finance Committee meeting. The report is as follows. A sample of the month's invoices were checked and all were correct. The RFO pointed out the increase of electric prices. It was suggested to approach other members of Finance to inquire if they would be included in the banking mandate, and draft budgets were reviewed, and these were suggestions will go back to the committees.
Thanks, Sophie. Okay, item B is to resolve to agree to authorise a payment for September 2022, which is £15,860.72, and to note the income for September 2022 is £4,706.67, and to agree the spend of £40 for flowers for Her Majesty the late Queen Elizabeth II under section 137 spend. Everyone looked at the payments list. Do we have a proposer? Mark, seconder? Isabel, all those in favour? Agreed, thank you. Item C is to note the bank balances as of the 30th of September 2022. Account ending 4844 is £2,945.89. Account ending 5394 is £14,208.89. An account ending in 01PC £232,527.58. That's just a note, isn't it? Okay, D is to review the provisional draft committee budgets as recommended by the Finance Committee. So there was, in the team drive, lots of Excel documents. It's good to see them. Things being banded around. Did everyone have a little look at them?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Mm.
That's good work.
Yeah.
Sophie?
Can I just ask whether each chair would be able to just briefly explain some key things from the budget, just from the public's point of view?
Yeah, of
And then
course.
only draft ones, but I think it would be useful for them to know what we're thinking.
Yeah, who wants to kick off? Isabel?
Hang on.
Let them know. I'll do PR, yeah.
Okay, so if I start off with planning properties, etc., there are some big figures in here, and I apologise for the big figures. The biggest figure is we've put a figure in of 50,000 for renovation of the chapels. Now, based on the fact that we'd already put in 32,000 in this year's budget, and there was also 2,500, so you've got 34,500 pretty much in this year's budget. We're only increasing it a little bit. That's how I'm justifying it.
Okay.
The reason we put in 50,000 is because we haven't had any figures come in yet. We are at the stage where we're just going out to get some estimates for some of the work that we're wishing to do. The main work that we want to do once the roof is done is to get the windows in at least one side renovated so that they can be opened up again. That could come to that sort of figure. It may be less than that figure. So once we've got some estimated costs, then we will adjust those figures if it's less. The idea is to at least get one side of the chapels renovated so it can be used for various things, like using it for small services if anybody's either got a burial and they don't want to go to church but they want to have a service in the cemetery, or if it's cremated remains, and also potentially to look at weddings within there. So that's the priority, is to get one side so it's functioning, and then we'll look at doing more work as we go further. But the windows are the priority.
One of the nicest things is that we're talking about budgeting early, but also is that these are provisional, so please don't be alarmed, members of the public, that have just heard that figure. These are always tweaked down as the information changes month by month.
Everything else has really just been tweaked in accordance with putting them up, because obviously heating, lighting, everything's gone up, so anything to do with properties, we've got to budget for that. Insurance will have gone up, so we've added more into our maintenance budget so that hopefully we can cover every eventuality that might come up throughout the year.
Thank you. Good start. Mark?
From an open spaces perspective, I think if I start off with last year's budget requirements were 48,311. this current year that we're projecting is a figure of 68,272 is predicted. If I can break a little bit of that down, we've put in a project fund for 19,000 for multiple areas, partially being youth area in Cars Park, nature reserve, there's a bit of money into for that, a little bit of work down at Netherfields. Tree work is keeping static at the figure that it was this year, and again similar to properties, one of the big increases is fuel. I think it was massively under listed last year, so you know we put in a budget last year of £500 for fuel, which we've overspent on this year, obviously with the fuel prices going up, so we've increased that. There are there are other things that's in there, but like for like, you take £19,000 of projects out of there, you're about comparable like for like, even with the increases. So we've shrunk it down on some areas, but primarily the biggest increase again is fuel, both electric, water, and petrol costs.
Thank you, Mark. Good luck with those. Sophie?
So for PR and IT, bit of a smaller budget. We're reviewing our phone and broadband. Obviously, we're looking to go over to VoIP next year when our contract ends with BT, so that should be saving us a bit of money. IT equipment, we're putting some away for general repairs, etc., improving speed of laptops. And then the email software and licenses is our standard, that is all staying the same. And then major projects we put in a bit more money for CCTV, mainly for the cemetery chapels, which probably won't get done this year with budgeting, and the calendar. So again, an increase from last year, but reducing our general day-to-day spending and spending more on projects for the parish.
Okay.
Okay, so events. Obviously, we're looking forward to the next year, so we have upped our budget slightly. This year we budgeted 5,000. As we've got likelihood that the coronation is going to be next year, we've got to include for that. Obviously, we have the Jubilee this year, so we've put in a similar sort of figure. We've upped the expenditure slightly on the car show, mainly because it's going to be bigger, but we have also put in income, which we haven't put in previously, because now we know what the sort of income we can generate from it. We're adding income into that one, and also the Christmas fair. Because it's a new event, we weren't quite sure how much we're going to spend on it, so we've upped it slightly for next year, but not significantly. And then we've added in a budget for all of our events, in case we do anything that we haven't planned for, but so we've got a little bit in reserve to do that. And also we've allowed for those key items like seating and gazebos and things that we can use time and time again. Now, if we spend that out of this year's budget, then that will come out of that budget. So it has increased slightly. It's increased by about 2,500 we've added. But again, that may be tweaked slightly.
I like the word tweaked. Rachel?
I know I haven't got a budget, but I think that all committees should be now mindful of scaling back for a year, because none of us know what this year's going to bring at all. Everybody's going to be in a pinch. I really don't want to see our preset going up. And the rate we're going, it's going to be going up. So I think people should be mindful just to ease up a little bit, just to see how the plan lasts.
Point taken.
I think the key thing is obviously our expenditure is going up. Fuel, electricity, etc. All of those things are going up. Costs of staff salaries are going to have to go up, so that they can cope with inflation as well. So things will have to go up. I think we still need to be delivering projects for the public. If we can provide value for money, that's the best thing. The main thing will be once these budgets are tweaked and more finalised, coming back to full council, calculating it all together, we need to be calculating the increase to a Band D property, because it may well be, especially with the new housing going up, that your tax base goes up, so the number of Christians paying council tax, which means that that offsets any increase you're calculating. So it may be a bigger figure than last year, but what we really need to be calculating is the increase to a Band D property, which in this area is going to be the more expensive end, rather than for most people compared to
So
other
let's
areas.
wait a year and see what figures we've actually got before we have too big a wish lists. I think, because we know things are going up, but keep it general. See how it goes.
This is just a provisional.
I know, I
So-
just wish people was mindful of it.
So your comments will be noted by council, and then obviously when we review the budgets again, especially when you're committee, that's when you can start chopping back if that's how your committee's going. Sophie's made a valid point about the balance, that it's the same for everybody, unfortunately, and you could go and sit in a meeting with another authority, they're not going to think
I'd
along the
say
lines of
exactly
cutting
the
back.
same thing. like-
Exactly, so your point is still completely valid, so thank you for that. Mark?
Sorry, Chair, maybe my naivety and not gone through the budget system before. We've given the budget responsibility for each committee apart from HR. Do we not give an overall figure of how much we spend on wages?
Yes.
Yep.
So we need to have a meeting to discuss staff wages, etc., and any other figures. Obviously, they'll be going up, they're not going to be going down. So, yeah, but we will be having a meeting before the next finance meeting to go through our budgets.
Mark?
Back on. Do we have a figure of what our current salary, sort of like overall budget is for this current year?
I don't know whether I have it on my, I've got it on yours. So currently we lump admin salaries in one and open spaces salaries in another.
I can tell you the overall figure. Budget 22, 23. The salaries figure that went to South Holland for this current financial year in total was £139,246.57.
Thank you.
That's the was put in last year, but it's for the current year we're in.
Could that possibly split down admin and open spaces separately?
If you just hold on 1 second, so I can catch up in minutes.
Also, if I could just point out, what was budgeted for last year is not the actual salaries we are paying currently, because when we budgeted for 2 full-time members of office staff, and we've now got 1 full-time and 1 part-time. So it has actually gone down.
As we review, would you be happy to receive that on email?
I've got it here, Stephen, yeah. So it's admin is 58,716.40 and open spaces is 80,530.17.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Okay, so that's a review of the provisional draft committee budgets as recommended by the Finance Committee. E is to resolve to agree to purchase a wreath from the Royal British Legion at a cost of £24.99 under section 137 spend. Straightforward, I think we do this every year. Opposed? Second. Tim, all those in favour? Agreed, thank you. To resolve to agree the grant application for the Royal British Legion Holy St Mark's at £75. Proposing? Seconding, all those in favour?
I can't vote.
You can vote.
Oh, no? Oh, I'll vote.
Calm down. Okay, that's agreed. G, to resolve to agree the recommendation of the committee to add the deputy clerk to the Barclays Bank mandate. Seems pretty straightforward if Jan's not about. We've got Symmetry proposing. Seconding, Sophie. All those in favour? Agreed. Okay, so item 2022/3-086 is meeting dates for 2023. And A is to resolve to agree the meeting dates and venues for 2023, which is Appendix 5 in your pack. So here we go, Monday the 16th of January 23 here at the Methodist Hall. Monday the 13th of February 2023, Methodist Hall. Monday the 13th of March 2023 here at the Methodist Hall. The next one is a Tuesday, the 11th of April 2023 here at the Methodist Hall. Monday the 15th of May 2023 here at the Methodist Hall. Monday the 12th of June 2023, and that's at Holbitch Village Hall. Monday the 10th of July 2023, Holbitch St Mark's Village Hall. Monday the 14th of August 2023, Holbitch St John's Village Hall. Monday the 11th of September 2023, the Methodist Hall, Albert Walk. Monday the 9th of October, here again at the Methodist Hall. Monday the 13th of November 2023 here at the Methodist Hall, and Monday the 12th of December 2023 here at the Methodist Hall. Do we have a proposer and a second?
Why is it Tuesday?
Easter Monday.
Proposing? Rachel seconding. All those in favour? Okay, the dates are agreed. Okay, item 2022/3-087, confirmation and date and venue of the next parish council meeting. So the next the meeting of the parish council will be on the 14th of November 2022 at the Methodist Church, the Methodist Hall Church Hall, Albert Walk, Holbitch, and that's at 18:45 with the same open forum. Okay, to resolve to agree to exclude the press and the public under the Public Bodies Administration to Meetings Act 1960 due to the confidential nature of the business to be transacted, which is item 2022/3-088, which is HR, Health and Safety and the Data Committee. Yeah? All those in favour? Okay. Okay, thank you everyone.